Hey, what's up everybody? Nyonyxx here with your quick EDM tip of the day. Today's tip is going to be the first part of my mini mixing series. I have done a longer video on mixing in general before. I'll probably update that soon because it's a bit old now, about 6 months or so, and I have changed some of my techniques. But the main gist of this series is just going to be a few tips that I use to make overall better mixes. Mixing is one of those things that tutorials definitely help, but you really just need to get in there and mix a lot of tracks. I would say that 90% of mixing is just knowing where to place the elements, and one of the only ways to learn where to place the elements is training your ears, because 6 months ago I couldn't hear certain things that I can easily hear today, and I'm sure 6 months from now I'll be hearing things that I can't even think of hearing now. I know that sounds crazy, but any of you guys that have been producing for a long time know exactly what I'm talking about. And when you first start off, you just can't hear the little nuances that you're trying to mix into, so it's really hard to show a actual mixing tutorial that will help you. But I will show some basic ideas, and the one I want to talk about today is a concept I call the sum of parts. Now, a lot of people have an issue where they can't get their track as loud as they want it to. Very common, and it's very hard to do, to get a professional sounding volume-wise track that doesn't sound squashed. They have incredible mixes, which is one reason why they can get it so loud. But one reason I think a lot of people don't get their track as loud as they want is they don't do proper EQing. Now, I'm going to give a little math example, so please bear with me. Just say you have a kick drum, a snare drum, a bass line, and a lead. That's all you have is 4 elements. Obviously, you're going to have more than that, but let's say each element is 25%, which equals 100, and say the total mix can only have 100. So you can only fit 100% volume in your mix. Okay? So if you have just say those 4 elements at 25%, none of them are EQ'd at all. So they're all just fully 25%, but each of those probably has at least 5% of sound that you really don't need there. You left it there because it sounded good when you soloed it, but in the whole scheme of the mix, you really don't need that extra 5%, quote unquote, 5% per element or per instrument that is in the mix. Now, for example, I'll show you this. We have that playing right there. You can see on my graphic EQ. Now, just say you want to get, you don't need, this one would be more than 5, but look, we chop out all that noise down there, which there's definitely minimal noise down there, and then for a lower end bass, you probably don't need all those highs because you're going to have a high taking up there. Of course, if you want your bass line to come through, you can do that, but for the gist of this tutorial, we'll just say that is you just cut off 5% of the total volume. So if you have 5% of the total volume gone from each of those, then you have 20 less percent volume, and you have quote unquote the same sound. So now your track is only at 80% volume, which means that you can properly use compressors now to give you a fuller sounding, louder sounding track all the way back up to the 100% volume, but you won't have any of that unwanted noise that you don't want in your mix. Now, and like I said, it's really a issue of the synth layer may sound better solo, and I'll tell you, every track I've ever made recently, I always check this. The layers themselves usually sound pretty wimpy, and you're like, wow, this sounds like crap, but it's not till you get 2 or 3 things under it or on top of it or whatever you want to call it until it sounds nice and full. And if I take all those EQs off, it just sounds like a wall of shit. So EQing really does help, and I think that a lot of people don't do it just because they listen to the element by itself and they decide, oh, it sounds good by itself, so it should sound good in the mix, which often isn't the case. So that's just the example I wanted to show you. I'm sure most of you guys know how to properly use EQ. You're just going to, again, this is the bulk of the sound right here. You can cut off as much as you want. If this was going to be a really low bass, I would cut it just like that. Yeah, pretty much it. And again, this is all unwanted sound that I really didn't want in my mix. Again, some bass lines you'll leave the sound up. It's all mix dependent. But the gist of the matter is to get your tracks louder, cut out stuff, and then in the end you can compress, and you won't have all the unwanted white noise in the background, and you won't have random stuff that you don't want there taking up space in your mix. Cool, I hope that helps. Sorry if that was a bit confusing. It took me a while to try to figure out how to explain that in the most simple terms possible. I'll do a new video soon, and I will try to explain more stuff about mixes on a different topic. Alright, cool guys. Thanks. Peace.